Okay, how is everyone? Good? Look at this room. This is cool. I feel like a professor in here. This is great. You're all going to get graded afterwards. I want to thank Andy and Amanda for having me here at Orbit. I really appreciate that. It's great to be here in Chicago. Okay, we have a lot to cover, so I'm going to jump in. I want to begin with a little bit of a confession, a little bit of a surprise. And it starts back at the original emails that I exchanged with Amanda and Andy when we were arranging this. This, as you can see, was May 15th, which feels like a long time ago. And Amanda said, I need a title and I need a description. I said, sure. So I drafted one up. This is what I sent. This is what I thought I might be talking about today. Amanda, you loved it. Andy liked it. And then a few weeks ago, I gave some other presentations. This is me at Agents of Change in Portland, Maine. I talked in Newport, Rhode Island, etc. I talked about search intent. I talked about what I thought I was going to be sharing today. But after those talks, I left thinking that I sort of could have done better. I could have done more. And so I am going to talk about search intent today. But, I've got to time my slides better here. I changed the thing here. But I want to share my entire SEO process for posting blog content and growing traffic. And this is something I've never shared before. So I hacked into your website and edited some stuff. I'm just kidding. I did Chrome. So today's talk is going to be about my top to bottom process for growing your blog traffic with SEO. And I've never shared this process top to bottom like this before. So we have a lot to get through. There is going to be stuff about search intent, which is important. But giving those talks earlier this month, I realized that there's really more to it than just search intent. So I want to begin with a little metaphor. So what's the main ingredient in ice cream? It's cream, right? And I think it's funny how you can start with cream, you can add some sugar, you can do some stuff to it, and you get a really tasty treat. But if you start with cream and you do some other stuff to it, you get sour cream. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to just be eating sour cream like as a dessert. And the reason that ties into this SEO process is because I see and talk to so many companies that are blogging, that are posting content, that are trying to grow traffic, that think they're targeting keywords. But nothing's happening. They're not growing traffic. They're not improving their results. And that's why I wanted to share my process. This is a process that I discovered 3 or 4 years ago. It started with this screenshot and this guy here. Anybody know this guy, Noah Kagan of Sumo? Anybody know sumo.com? They make like email opt-in tools and traffic tools. This screenshot is from their blog traffic, and it grew 20x after working with them for 6 months. In the fall of 2015, Noah gave me a call. He said, Dan, we need traffic. We've been blogging. We haven't been getting results. Can you help us? What can we do? So I spent 3 months working with Noah and Nat, who was running their content at the time, and this was the result of that. And it was from that experience that over the last 3 years, I've been doing this process over and over and over and over again with all my other clients and having repeatable success. And so what I want you to get out of this talk is I want you to leave here and have a process that you can use to publish blog content to actually grow traffic. And it's without link building. Anybody here tried link building, do link building? It's no fun, right? I don't know about you. I've tried link building. Is it fun? Do you like sending outreach emails and feeling like you're spamming people? He's like, yeah, it's fun. It's not fun for me, and I know for a lot of people, they don't want to go through that process of having to like beg people to link to them to grow their traffic and that kind of thing. And I think it was Steve Jobs that famously said, yuck, to link building. So this process does not involve link building. Here it is. We're going to go through the 7 steps. So now that you see it, you can leave. No, just kidding. I'm going to break down every single one of those steps one by one, starting with creating a list of root topics. So here's what I mean by this. Let's say you're working at a company, or you're in-house, or you're a consultant like I am. You want to begin by collecting a whole lot of topics that this particular company or site could write about. Let's say you're writing so one of my clients are sales recruiters. So a seed topic for them might be sales recruiting. It's a broad term. It has high volume. It's not something they're going to write an individual article about. It's something they're going to use to then get more specific topics. So this is step number one. It's very important not to skip this step, because if you do, you might kind of not end up looking at all the potential topics. I have two tools to share for how to come up with seed topics. So this is the Moz Keyword Explorer. And I recently did a project for a company that deals with mechanics liens. I didn't even know what a lien was until I started working with them. So one of the challenges that I find is if you're working with a company or even in-house, you might have what I call unknown unknowns. You don't know the things that you should be thinking about or writing about. So this Moz keyword tool is a great way to plug in a known topic like mechanics lien, and then you can see the settings there. Feel free to screenshot that. And it will spit back out to you things that are related topics, aka more seed topics or more root topics. And so you can see chapter 13 and bankruptcy petition. So then you can take all the seed topics, and then we're going to move those into step 2. Here's another tool you can use to get more root. I use root and seed topic interchangeably. This is BuzzSumo's question analyzer. Anybody use BuzzSumo? BuzzSumo, a few people. Awesome tool. I love it. Use it all the time. This is their question analyzer, and you can plug in a topic into this, and they do give you a little word cloud, but also if you scroll down, they're going to give you a lot of related questions around these topics as well. And the point here too is if you are just starting with lien, and that's all you know about what this company is about, you can use this tool to do that thinking for you. And it's telling you, all these other great starting point topics. Part 2 is definitely the most important step. If you get part 2 wrong, nothing else is going to matter after this. So I'm going to spend a lot of time in part 2 and then a little bit less time in the other parts. Now is the time when you're going to actually determine the topics that you're going to post blog content about. This is the biggest mistake and biggest disconnect that I see people having with getting SEO results, is they are not carefully choosing the topic to align to a piece of content that they're going to create. So I made these slides this morning, by the way, every single one. This is a photo from my hotel room last night. I had HGTV on. And I kind of think of this process as very similar to like House Hunters. Anybody watch House Hunters? And it's funny, but it's a little true, right? Like the husband wants the man cave and the wife wants this and that. And doing really good keyword research is kind of like this. You have to satisfy a lot of different criteria. And so feel free to screenshot this. I'm going to just kind of fly through these, but to find a really good keyword or topic for a blog post, you need to satisfy a lot of different things. It needs to have volume. You need to be able to rank for that thing. It should align with some sort of business goal. It should be a piece of content that you have the resources to create. I'm going to get a little bit more specific into this. So I'm going to do a really quick demo, because I think the best way is to just show an example. So I want to take the keyword piano apps for iPad, because this result here, this was a site that I worked with about a year ago. We haven't worked together for a while, but they rank number 1 for piano apps for iPad. This keyword satisfied that because number 1, if you look at it, has to have a good amount of volume, but not too much, because then that's going to be too competitive. It has 720 searches a month. Ooh. Oh no, I'm giving away the rest of my slides there. Okay. If you've ever been in front of people, it's like you totally forget how to use a computer. Also, at the time that I recommended they write this article, and even now, here's one of the biggest gaps of them all. It's called a relevance gap. So when you're looking for topics to write for, and if you search that term in Google, in this case the seed word or the root word was piano apps, and then piano apps for iPad is the specific topic, there's not really much other content that is specifically piano apps for iPad. This one's for iPhone and iPad, this one's in the App Store, there's some videos, this one is for iPad. This is learn how to play piano on iPad, so it's not apps for iPad. So the point here is when you actually search this word in Google, like you can use all the competitive scores that you want for all the tools. They all give you difficulty scores. But when you actually look in Google and you realize no one's written a specific piece of content that's piano apps for iPad, that's your big opportunity. And so that fulfills one of the gaps there. It's called a relevance gap. And then for them, this is a company that sells pianos, so there's a loose connection, but this type of content gave them a huge amount of brand awareness. And it actually helped their piano pages rank better because it's driving up authority to their website. So it definitely fulfilled business goals. I'm going to talk about what a fact intent search is in a little bit. And then they had the resources to create a high quality piece of content around this because they had a writer who could do the quality research, etc. I want to highlight one other thing. So the other type of ranking gap is called an authority gap. And what I mean by that is domain authority. So this is Moz's metric where they try to calculate the link authority of a website. And that's where this plugin, this overlay tool comes in from here. This number DA38, that's the domain authority of that website. So you can just Google Mozbar and install that. It's a free plugin to get domain authority. You've got to pay to get some of the other metrics, but you can get that for free. If you're working with a website that your domain authority is 30, and you search a thing in Google, and everything else ranking there is 40, 50, 60, 70, and higher, you're probably not going to rank. It's too competitive from a domain authority standpoint, unless there's a big, big gap in relevance, meaning no one's written about that topic before. So it's very important to install and use the Mozbar plugin to look at domain authority. However, if you're a domain authority 40 or 50 site and you see a lot of other lower sites ranking there, 20, 30, 40, etc., then that's a gap where you can rank because you're a more authoritative website. Okay, how do I get back to the demo? There we go. Okay, so I sort of gave away my slide there, but the last thing I wanted to add, and this is where the intent part comes in, is you need to categorize keywords by intent. In fact, I think it was Alec Baldwin that said, always be categorizing your keywords by intent. I don't actually know that actor's name, but this is the important part because the mistake that I see people making is they'll have a keyword that they're going to create a piece of content around, but they create the wrong page because they're not matching in the intent, and I'm going to explain what I mean. There's three types of search intents: informational, transactional, and navigational or brand searches. And you can feel free to take a picture of that too. An informational keyword is basically somebody looking for a blog post or an article or a piece of content. That's somebody that, in Google's terms, they want to know something. They're researching, they're learning. A transactional keyword is a keyword where somebody wants to buy something, or they want to download something, or they want to stream a show on Netflix. It's what Google would call a do keyword. And here's how to tell the difference. If you're not sure the intent of a keyword, just search it in Google, and if you see stuff like ads and shopping results and product pages or service pages, that's a transactional keyword. If you see blog posts and information and videos and pictures, that's an informational keyword. It's important to do that because you don't want to create a piece of blog content around something that's a transactional keyword or vice versa. You'll never rank and you have misaligned expectations there. I wanted to highlight this search here. I'm wondering if somebody can scan and take a look at the two blue results here, and what jumps out as funny about these two results. So the keyword is protein and eggs. What's unusual about what Google has decided to rank there? I see a few smiles. Anybody see it or have a guess? No? Right, yeah, who said that? Thank you for volunteering, yeah. Maybe everyone else is just shy. So yeah, I type protein and eggs, and Google says you actually are looking for foods high in protein. And then it gives me foods that have more protein than eggs. This is Google using their machine learning and AI and all this stuff to get more complex about how they're understanding what I as a user wants. This is a type of search I would avoid. It's what I call a fact search. It's somebody that wants to know something like, how tall is the Eiffel Tower? Or who's the actor in this movie? or how much protein is there in this type of food. And you know what a fact search is because you see Google's answer box there at the top. And you can intuitively know there's not really much more than giving 6 grams to this answer. So it's a fact search. I would avoid keywords that have this sort of fact intent because yes, you could rank for protein and eggs with an article that's foods that have more protein, but it's very, very hard to calculate and predict that. And I'd recommend moving towards some of the other examples I'm going to show that are not fact intent. So like I said, step 2 is quite important. If you don't accurately decide the topic that you're going to post around to begin with, nothing else after, none of the other steps are going to help after that. Okay, so this is a keyword that I had a client create a piece of content around. The search volume is 1,900 searches a month. Can anyone take a guess as to how much traffic this article gets for ranking for something that has 1,900 searches a month? They rank number 1. Any guesses? How much traffic? More than that amount or less? Who thinks more? Who thinks less than 1,900? Okay, a little split, a little bit more on the less side of things. This is their actual analytics. I'm going to show it to you. For 1 month, 5,086 visits. So I did trick you a little bit intentionally. How does the math work there? It's because they rank for more than one keyword, right? They rank for dozens or hundreds of keywords. And so the point here is when you're doing your prioritization, you should prioritize content with traffic estimates, not search volume. Who here is using like search volume for data? Some people. This is SEMrush. So if you take my client's article and put it in SEMrush, SEMrush is going to give you that 1,100 number. That's them estimating how much potential traffic that article is getting. So if you wanted to write a post, sales team names, you would take my client's article, which is ranking number 1 for that in Google, put in SEMrush, and that's going to give you the traffic estimate. And this is only for desktop, by the way. If you click on mobile, that makes it even more. So I do see the SEMrush numbers a little bit lower than what you would see in the internal analytics. So you can definitely kind of round up sometimes. And then the punchline to step 3 is a little spreadsheet like this. This is where you're going to round up all the specific topics from step 2, put them in the spreadsheet, and you can put search volume, but the best thing to put, like I was saying, is the potential traffic. And I always calculate by annual. So I take the monthly estimate and then multiply by 12. And then this is the best way to prioritize content because now you're just sorting from top to bottom with potential traffic. And you can see how like there's a keyword that looked like it had 70 searches a month, but that topic would actually get 18,000 visits a year when you actually take the existing article and put it in SEMrush. So that's why you want to calculate with estimated traffic. Okay, so part 4, this is again where this process breaks, because oftentimes I've done the keyword research for clients, I've handed it to them, I think it's a great topic, and then their writers take it, and then they completely go off track from what the target was. So this is where I've been sitting down with my clients and with their writers and helping them to create an outline. And this is super important. So when you've chosen a topic that is something that you want to rank for in search, the best thing you can do is search that keyword in Google and study the results to get insights for what your piece of content should look like. So the step number 1 to that is using research in the search results to help create an outline for your content. So this is the search results for behavioral segmentation. It's an actual keyword that one of my clients is going to use to create a piece of content. And I'll step back one. You can see from looking at it, it's like super unclear what the user might want. There's some things that are definition. There's some things that are more the benefits of. There's ways to use it. It's a very mixed result. This comes back into where intent plays a role. It's like, what is the user really trying to find out about this topic? And this is what I call a hybrid search, a hybrid intent search, because it's not clear. Like a lot of times when you go to Google, all 10 results are definitions, or they're all a how-to or a process. This is unclear. So by looking at the search results, we can see, and by looking at all the other questions people ask that are in the autosuggest and the searches down below, this is the actual outline that we came up with. It's a hybrid piece of content. It's not just the what, it's not just the why, it's not ways to use, it's all of that mixed in, because that's what Google is showing us that users want. And so it even indicates the percentage of content. So when I create an outline for search around a topic, there's really three basic questions I want to answer. What are the sections, where do they go, and how long are they? And you can get a good feel for that by looking at Google search results. And if there's only one article ranking that's giving you the how-to, then I make that a small part of the piece of content. So I'm just using Google and then reflecting that into the content. Then second to that, so you have your traditional outline, but then you want to use the research to plan the types of content that should make up that article. Does it need video, text, etc.? And again, the best way to do that is to go to Google. So when you search beards in Google, you see pictures. And so your article should have images in it. If you search for something like how to tie a tie, it has video. So your piece of content should have video. This is a quick little aside. This is a post that's on drift.com. Everyone, I believe, should be thinking about creating audio versions of text content. I don't think we're too far away from people landing on an article and then expecting or wanting to be able to listen to that article rather than have to read the whole thing, especially if they're on the go or whatnot. And so what I did here is, using all my podcasting equipment and etc., I created audio versions of 4 articles that were on Drift's website, and then posted them here, and then uploaded the audio to SoundCloud, embedded the SoundCloud in the page. And what's really cool about that is you can hit play and then close your phone and then continue listening to the article while you go about your day and do something else. So it's just a quick little aside. I think everyone should be thinking about creating audio versions of at least some of your most popular content and embedding it in the page. So now we come to actually creating the content. So we've come up with core topics, we've come up with specific topics, we've planned an outline. Part 5 is really about when you are actually sitting down to write and create that content, whether you're the one writing it or whether you're helping guide somebody else in writing that content. I thought this GIF was funny, number 1, but number 2 is like, this is what happens with my clients half the time, is you think they're really going to nail something, and then at the very end they completely crash and fall over. So I have some tips and advice for creating content, for ingredients that goes into content that is high quality and rank worthy. Number 1, this is just a screenshot of an email that I literally send to clients at least once a week. And that is, a client will draft up a piece of content based off a topic I gave them. But, and the example that I was talking about here is, I think the content was best-selling products online. That was the topic, best-selling products online. And at the top, the first 1,000 words were how to find a best-selling product online. That's what the client had put there. And then at the bottom, they actually listed the best-selling products online. But the searcher is searching best-selling products online, so I had them flip that around, right? So you want to answer the specific search question at the top first, and then do anything else that you want to after that. The next tip would be to make your headlines clear. This is an example draft of a piece of content from another client. They put, "Make it happen." I was like, great, make what happen? If you're scanning the content, you have no idea what that section's about. So I pulled an example here from healthline.com. They're a website that is doing really good SEO right now. I screenshotted every single heading and the title tag from one of their articles about carb cycling. And what do you notice in that? Like almost every headline has the exact words carb cycling in it. And one might look at that and say, well, that looks kind of like they're stuffing keywords, or it looks a little repetitive. But as a user, when you're scanning through a 2,000-word article and every heading is super clear and it keeps repeating the message, carb cycling, you have a really clear understanding of what that piece of content is about. Healthline.com, again, they're making their content very easy to scan by adding this little bottom line thing, which I really like. they do that at the bottom of every single section. So it's heading, content, and then the bottom line. Another thing that I see sites doing a lot is linking to popular content. You might see that in the sidebar or the footer. That tends to be super unuseful, actually, for the user and for the visitor. So I've had clients using like Hotjar and looking at click maps, and no one's clicking on that stuff. But what people are clicking on and what they do find useful is when you link to what should that reader read next. That's thinking about the journey of that reader, right? Like if I'm Googling how to tie a tie and I land on that, what might I want to know next? Maybe it's how to match a tie with a suit, or how to pick out the best tie for my height, or whatever it is. So definitely think about linking to what that reader should read next and not linking to popular posts. Another thing really important, especially nowadays in Google, I don't know if anybody follows Google updates, but they had a big algorithm update in August. One of the biggest ones they've had in years. Sites like Dr. Axe, for example, lost 45% of their traffic, which is crazy numbers. But one of the big things Google is looking at is this issue of trust, of users believing who's behind the content. A lot of this certainly comes from the whole fake news idea and just people being very skeptical of what they're reading online. And so I love what Student Loan Hero does here. They have a sentence below that image. This appears on every post. You can certainly do this custom in your content, or you can do it in your template on every post. But they know that people searching for student loan information are inherently skeptical. They know that this industry has a lot of scams in it. So they're addressing that right up front. They say, we've got your back, we're here to help you, blah, blah, blah. And they link to where it says read more, they actually link to a page that talks all about how they come up with their content. And I think that's something I see that's a really good way to get the user to stick on your page and not bounce. So the question I always get is, okay, Dan, you've given us a topic. You say it's for SEO. Where do we put the keywords? We haven't talked about keywords at all. Maybe people in the room here were expecting me to talk about, tagging and meta tags and all that kind of thing. The good news here, there's two places to put your keyword. And I don't know, for some reason I thought the mic drop was like a good metaphor. I like that. Let's say the keyword is piano apps for iPad, like that post I shared earlier. Literally, you just put that keyword in the title tag and in the URL, and that's it. And people are often confused. You're supposed to be an SEO. You're supposed to be telling us to put keywords in the paragraphs and bold them and italicize and all that. And the truth is, the traffic growth that I showed from Sumo, the writer who wrote most of that content didn't even know they were topics for SEO. She just wrote great content. And hopefully some of these elements share what that great content entails. Okay, so we're on to part 6. It's very short. Part 6 and 7 are fairly short. We'll definitely have some time for Q&A. You definitely want to analyze what's happening. So a lot of people, then this is where people mess up again, is they post the content and they walk away. And they don't follow up just to see what's happening. There's two ways I recommend analyzing content when you're posting it for SEO purposes. Number one is track rankings. And again, this goes back to step 2. If you don't define your topic to begin with, you don't even know what rankings to track for what keywords. But at least in step 2, you've clearly defined what you expect a piece of content to rank for. This is a screenshot from Authority Labs. I really like Authority Labs for rank tracking. As you can see, the graphs can clearly show day by day what's happening. So they track rankings daily. I don't like rank trackers that are just weekly or even a few times a week. Daily is really good to have. And I also wanted to show this too because this was an example of a piece of content where, as you can see, rankings take a little while to increase. So a lot of people ask, okay, if I post a piece of content, how long should it take for us to see results? And I think this paints a really good picture because this piece of content took a month or two before it started ranking up on page 1. And then you can see even after something's on page 1, it does bounce around a bit day after day too. The other big thing that a lot of people miss is using Search Console. Who in here uses Search Console or logs in once in a while? Definitely check out the new version, the beta version. There's a lot of good stuff around search analytics, which we're looking at here. I oftentimes say one of the best ways to do keyword research is to publish content and then let Google collect data for you. This screenshot here is the top 20 or so keywords that an article on my website ranks for. When I wrote the article, the only keyword I was thinking of was meta description examples. That's the top keyword here. But then after I publish it and waited 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, I can see that it's ranking for all these other things I hadn't thought of. Blog descriptions, homepage meta description examples. And you can do a lot of things with this data, too much to share in one talk, but that link there is an article by Cyrus Shepard, who is formerly from Moz. And he has an entire article of what to do with this data and these keywords. You can create new content off of it. You can take some of the keywords here, put it back into your content when you're updating it. So there's a lot you can do with that data. I think I got lazy and just didn't put anything here for this slide. But one of the biggest things is actually learning. So like I didn't know this stuff at the beginning. Like I shared, that experience with Sumo was 3 years ago. Before that, I was chugging along, doing pretty well, posting content, ranking stuff, but didn't have the top to bottom process down. I didn't have the full understanding of looking for a relevance gap or a domain authority gap. I learned this stuff by doing it over and over and over and over and over again. And that's why it's super important to track your rankings, to look in Search Console, to say, I thought I was going to rank for paleo apps, but I'm only at position 9. Let me go into Google and search and see. Maybe I didn't create a high quality piece of content like I thought I did. Maybe I'm missing stuff. So you have to constantly go back and look at the content you've created, see what's happened, and if it hasn't worked, use that as a learning experience. I know a lot of companies, especially my clients, they're not paying me to learn, so a lot of people don't like to hear that, but the truth is, some content you publish is going to do amazing, you're going to hit it out of the park, some content's going to do okay, and some content's going to fall flat. And that's okay. That's what you want to learn from. Okay, part 7 is keeping your content updated. This is definitely, people have talked about this a lot more in recent years as far as keeping your content maintained. There's some basics, which I think everyone intuitively might know. Go into the content, fix your links, update screenshots. I've seen a lot of people write content about apps or software, and you go and look at it, and they've got a screenshot of the tool from like 2009. That's not helpful. Add new data, research, update the content, keep it maintained. But I have a little advanced tactic for you. So updating content, all those basic things, sure, you can do that. However, this is a tactic that I came up with that worked really, really well. I'll show you the actual example. But these are the steps. So basically, if you have, let me just show you the example actually, that'd be more clear. This is the archive.org version of a piece of content on a client's website. It was basically, this is marksdailyapple.com. This guy Mark, he's the founder, one of the very first paleo blogs that ever existed. He has this column where he just answers questions. It's called Dear Mark. And in 2012, somebody asked him about women and intermittent fasting. And he wrote this answer. And over the years, that content did okay. But of course, more people started writing about it. This content went ignored. The rankings fell down. And eventually, it was barely getting any visibility at all. So we found this because, we're looking for these opportunities to update content. But it seemed funny to me to just totally get rid of this sort of legacy version, archived version piece of content here and just completely delete it and start with something new. So that's where I came up with this tactic. So what we did was we took that original article. I keep forgetting to use the clicker. We took the original content, copy and pasted it, moved it to a not indexed page in WordPress. So if anyone's not sure what that is, basically we just moved it to a page, not a post, so there's no date on it. And we set it with the Yoast plugin to no index. That means that users can find it, but it's not going to ever show up in Google. Then we had them write a totally brand new piece of content around women in intermittent fasting. They published that over the original content on the original URL. So this is the newly written content, but it's on the original URL that was created in 2012. We then updated the date, and you can see by doing it this way, we still preserved all 600 or so of their comments and all the social shares. But then to kind of connect the dots, we linked to the archive version from the new version, and then vice versa. Because Google is all about what's going to be the most helpful for the user and what's going to not confuse them. And so I figured if I, as a user, Google something, I land on it, I'd love to know if this is something that had been updated in the past and still be able to find that old information. But I don't want to index that old information. So this was a solution that we landed on. And this was the result. As you can see, they had barely gotten any traffic at all since they installed the new Search Console. And then it was May 2018 we updated and their traffic shot up. So just to review, we're going to have plenty of time for Q&A, which is great because I do always love to leave about 10 minutes for that. This is the process again. I know it was a bit ambitious to try to go through the entire thing, so I kind of went quickly through a lot of that. So that's where I think if anybody has questions or wants me to fill in the gaps in the Q&A, we can... Oh, lost internet connection. What a bad time for that to happen. Because I have one more thing. Well, I can't make it bigger, evidently, but you can see it smaller here. So here's the one more thing. If you recall back to the beginning of the presentation, this was the traffic growth from sumo.com. The thing I didn't tell you, though, was how many pieces of content we used to grow traffic. I'm curious what everyone in the room might think. Anybody think more than 10 pieces of content to grow the traffic? More than 20? Who thinks like a lot of content, or I'm not doing good with these questions. Who thinks like less than 10 pieces of content? Okay, so a good amount of the room. So I maybe underestimated a little bit of the room here at Content Jam. That's good. The truth is, it was like 4 pieces of content that we used to grow their traffic 20x. And that's because of something that you might have heard of called the 80-20 principle. And this is the one more thing. This is the last tactic that I want to leave with everyone, is to use the 80-20 principle as a tactic for growing traffic. So this is their actual analytics. Of course, I didn't want to share all their traffic numbers. I'm not sharing a whole lot here, except if you can see really small, we've got the percentage of traffic that each blog post brought. Oh, there we go. The top blog post is responsible for 26% of their traffic, which on one hand makes it a little vulnerable, but on the other hand, that drove a lot of the growth. And then the next few posts from there, all were ones that we worked on for SEO, are still driving more than a few percentages of their traffic. So all that growth came from 4 or 5 pieces of content. And so that's what I want to leave you with, is that's how you can grow traffic, not easily, but with less content that does more for you. So when you're doing, do you have a question right away? Or?
Yeah. How many pieces of content did you create to get those 4? Or were those just the 4 that you created?
Okay, I'll get to that in 1 second. I'll wrap up the last slide here, and then we'll start with your question. When you're doing your traffic estimates, like I shared with SEMrush earlier, that's where that number becomes helpful. Because you can look at your current top trafficked blog post, and if it's getting 200 visits a month, then you just need to add content that will maybe get 1,000 visits a month, and that's how you can really amplify your growth. And I did a whole video on that, by the way. You can get to it, bit.ly.com, 80-20 SEO. Okay, so that's it. Can you repeat your question one more time?
Sure. I was curious, how many pieces of content did you create to get those top 4 performing pieces, or did you just create those 4 pieces?
We just created those 4 pieces. Yeah. The way I look at it is every piece of content is going to have a monthly traffic number. And so if that number is 1,000 and you add that piece of content, you're adding 1,000 visits a month. So, yep. Yeah, it's a good question, though. Okay. Any other questions? Yes?
So when you're doing your keyword research, you mentioned that you're looking at the search results to determine if a keyword is a good fit or if it's something that you want to go after. It seems like a lot of manual So you're
Yep.
doing that manually.
Yes.
You're looking at every keyword to see which one has the best opportunity.
Yep. A lot of people are totally shocked when I tell them that for like a client project, I'll manually look at 50 to 100 search results.
Gotcha.
But it works.
Yeah.
And that's the work, that's your advantage. A lot of people don't want to put in that work. Yeah. But yeah, I don't trust the keyword difficulty scores for that to tell me if there's an opportunity, because they're not looking at relevance and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of the tools that you're talking about, like SEMrush and Moz,
Mhm.
they are really useful, but they can be really expensive. Do you have any free tools that you recommend?
Yeah, the biggest free tool that I love and been using is called Keywords Everywhere. It gives you this search data right in Google, right in search results. So it'll tell you search volume as you're using Google and using some of the other tools. It's a free plugin, Keywords Everywhere. It's a Chrome extension, Firefox extension. It also gives you all the data for all the related keywords too. So it doesn't replace a Moz or an SEMrush, but it's a free tool. That I literally couldn't live with it. Like the tool broke for like a day, and I emailed the owner, and I was like, "Help! I need your tool. Fix it." He fixed it quickly. But yeah.
Early in your presentation, you said you should have high competition when you're looking at topics.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that make it harder since you're competing against more people?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think high competition just happens to correlate with a root topic, and so the root topic is your starting point. So let's say it's piano apps. That's high competition. But since it's your starting point, you're really going to dig in and go for the long tail. And then that's where you're going to get to lower competition. So it's totally fine to start with the root topic with high competition, because your next step is to go into the long tail and go lower competition. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes?
Do you have any advice or like any framework to when you're looking at what the search traffic should be
Mhm.
once you create the page in terms of those keywords that have things like rich snippets on them that
Mhm.
have a list up top and stuff like that? Because I've definitely seen on my end, we've had articles that were getting a ton of traffic when they were ranking spot 3, and then when it goes into spot 0, all of a sudden it doesn't even get traffic anymore.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. So for one, the protein and eggs thing, that's where I tend to ignore some of those types of keywords. I really want to go for stuff that is going to rank and people are going to want to click on. So I do try to avoid those because, yeah, it's tough and it's volatile, right? Like when they flip around, you might not get the clicks anymore. And I also typically only look at desktop metrics. Most mobile searches are abandoned clicks and aren't driving the right type of traffic. So that's why I use desktop numbers in SEMrush. So I don't know if that helps. It's just kind of more like I ignore it, just go for where people click. Yeah.
When you're talking about updating content, I know it was in the context of a blog.
Yeah.
Let's say you're just updating an article
Mm-hmm.
on your website. Do you need to use the same URL? Because I know a lot of it was keeping the comments and the
Yeah.
followers and whatnot. Would you apply the same kind of technique if you were doing it for an article?
Yeah, and that was an article, so maybe I should have made that more clear. But yeah, I mean, I think trying to keep the URL consistent is a good idea. The time that I'll update a URL is when it's like super long or not very well optimized to begin with. Let's say it's like 10 words long and the keyword's not in there and it's not even super user-friendly, then I'll update it. So I've seen Google in the last few years not really skip much of a beat with a URL update and a 301 redirect. They typically are, in the past, you would do that and you might lose rankings for a little while. I'm not seeing that type of glitch anymore. Yeah. But if the URL is fine, if it's short, if the keyword's in there, you can keep it the same. Yeah. I'd also update URLs that have the dates in them, like Best Marketing Conferences 2017. Take the date out, just make it Best Marketing Conferences, that type of thing. Yeah. Got a couple more minutes, if there's any. Yep.
So for those 4 blog posts for Sumo, how much time would you say that you spent on each blog post?
Did the writer spend creating them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a good writer or somebody doing a good piece of content is going to be in that 8 to 10 hour range. It takes work. It's definitely not the let me get somebody on Fiverr to write 800 words and just put it out there.
More on like monster posts, like these giant resource library posts.
Yeah, a couple were, but one, I can show you one. One is this post called Power Words, which I actually use all of the time because Sarah, the original writer who created it, did such a good job. I actually reference it. And this is the funny thing. This is what I call fast food content. And I'll show another example. But sometimes when people are searching, they don't want the 2,000 word guide. They want the quick answer. So it's counterintuitive to what a lot of people tell you nowadays. Oh, you need 1,000 words, 2,000 words. If the user just wants a list of something, you should just give them that. And so this post isn't super, super long. Most of the value in this is the list of words. There is some content down below, which I think, my guess is probably most people don't even look at those. They just come here for the words. Another example would be, this is a site that, how do they rank twice for that? I got to send an email to somebody. This is the keyword here was health coach business names, and the entire content is literally a list of names with a couple paragraphs and some links. So it's just all about understanding that the value for the user might be just the list or something well curated versus a giant guide. So any couple last questions? A couple more minutes. By the way, I somehow got confused on time zones. I scheduled like a client phone call in 10 minutes. But if anybody wanted to talk to me, I'll be around after that and stuff. So, yes?
When you said about the 80-20 rule, like we're in a very, very niche market. Like I'm running out of topics, basically.
Yeah. What's your market? Can you say?
We have payment consulting for higher ed universities, like for universities.
Wow.
So I've got about, really, probably about 1,000 people that I'm going after. Do you say the same thing multiple ways?
Well, what I would do is think audience-centric, and what are all those other things those people want to know about, learn about, pain points, etc. Go beyond your topic to tangent relevant topics, top of funnel, get the awareness. So, say it again? That sounded confusing.
Payment consulting, like credit card payments?
Yeah? For higher...
Universities, on campus.
What does that even mean? I don't know.
You go to campus and you buy a
Yeah?
cafe.
They have consultants for that?
They can't figure it out on their own.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't it just like install Square in your bookstore? Wow, who knew? Yeah, but so things they're concerned about would be security. Okay, so like campus security, like digitally?
People stealing, there's a breach on campus. They steal all the credit card information.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would just think about what is that target audience, what else do they want to know about, and write about that. Yeah, you can always find other topics to branch out to.
Even problems we don't solve.
Yes. Yeah, it's about getting the attention and awareness. Yeah, and so that is a tricky spot to be in. And you do have to sell that to the people higher in the company that are trying to understand, like, hey, why are we writing about like this thing all of a sudden? And I have a post on drift.com, I'll give you the link, that has 9 ways to attribute value to top of funnel SEO content. It's like using assisted conversions, brand awareness, saving money on PPC, like all the stuff top to bottom. Yeah, I'll send you the link if you want it. We have time for like one more? If there's, or we're about time? Okay.
We want to give everybody enough time to get to
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, that's it. Thanks, everyone.